She moved to Los Angeles with with her parents' permission. She was young. She was 18 years old, 19 years old. And she twirled her way right into the officers' club where she met a dashing young man by the name of Charles Kaminsky. He was a World War II bomber pilot and fell madly in love with my mom, and they produced 3 children: Brad, who you've already heard from, myself, Chuck, and Paul. 3 boys, all the time. We're going to get to that too. Anyway, my dad went off to fight in Korea and came back, and they started their family. And my mom got a job working at 20th Century Fox and Cinemax, and ended up at 20th Century Fox working for Dennis Stanfield, who was the CEO of 20th Century Fox at the time. It was funny to talk to Mom. As an airline pilot, every once in a while I have a celebrity on the airplane, and my mom would go, "Oh yeah, I know those people." Mom basically had lunch with Robert Redford, Paul Newman. Didn't so much like John Wayne. He was a little bit of a womanizer. Thought Howard Hughes was a bit strange. And it was funny. I mean, she went to lunch with every movie star at that studio. And I think that was part of that was where she learned to get along with people of great wealth and fame. And she worked for Dennis Stanfield, and her day-to-day life had to be very strange. But anyway, that was one of the factors I think that helped create the Robin Daly that you all know. The next incident that I think kind of significantly contributed to Mom's volunteering. The 3 boys were going to Corpus Christi grade school. It was a Catholic school, and Brad is probably the most precocious of the 3. He was the follow-up. He was the follow-up batter. Anyway, it was during the great yo-yo scare of the 1960s. We had discovered that Woodbury sold a long, skinny yo-yo, and we had discovered that you could pop the plastic caps off of it and fill it full of nickels, and this thing had great inertial mass. So much so that Brad got a 20-foot string and would do around the worlds off the 2nd floor at Corpus Christi. Well, one day, the engineering was a little bit off, and Brad was always a great athlete. He was a pitcher on our baseball team, and he was doing around the worlds from the 2nd floor, and that yo-yo snapped and sailed across the quad and hit Sister Selena right in the head. Knocked their habit off, and it's like, you can imagine all the kids just laughing. You ever seen a nun with her habit off? With a butch? I noticed after that Mom started doing a lot more volunteering at school. Now, we're not going to give Brad all the credit for Mom's volunteering ways, but let's just say that he should probably take a little bit of the blame. Anyway, time flies by, and no subject of talking about Robin's boys would be complete without talking about her favorite and most distinguished son, Shun Takimura. Shun Takimura came to us from Japan. He was a friend of kind of a bet with his boss. He decided to come to America to learn English and learn American business so he could start the first store of Itoya in America. Now his boss said, "You don't speak English, you don't know anything about American business." Shun said, "I'm going to go to America and I'm going to live with a family and I'm going to learn these things." And he did. And the family that he picked was the Kaminsky family. Now, if you hear Shun talk about it, he'll tell you how generous we were and how we flew his wife out from Tokyo. We didn't even know he was married. We noticed he was a little depressed one Christmas, and he tells us that he's married. His wife's back in Tokyo. So my parents flew Etsuko out, and she took over Shun's duties at the house, and Shun went down and worked in a stationery store in Palisades and learned American business and learned American English. Learned to swear properly from the Kaminsky brothers, and went back, and the rest is history. If Shun tells a story, it's all about the generosity of our family. We learned so much from Shun we got so much more back from Shun. And it was Shun that opened up the door Mom's heart, where she said, yeah, I can have people come into my house and share my life with them. And it makes a huge difference way down the road. I mean, it's just amazing what's gone on, and the fingers of love that still come from the Takamura clan. Anyway, that was a big part of my mother's discoveries with Shun Takamura. Anyway, time goes by. My parents eventually split up in the 70s, and my mom was heartbroken, and there was a young Brad, once again, I think when he ran away when he was about 4 years old, he wandered into one of the neighbors' garages, and that young man at the time was Bill Burroughs. Bill Burroughs, forgive me, he was a member of the California Yacht Club. But Bill Burroughs became a lifelong friend. Bill and Gwen, some of you may remember them. Anyway, Bill introduced my mom to George Daly, and Bill is responsible for my boat fever, which I like to give to some of my friends. He's responsible for Mom's love of sailing. He is responsible for moving the family to San Francisco. George was an executive at Guard Industries. We used to laugh and say, God, that guy's a power gator. He and I would sail the Columbia 34 over to Catalina, and Mom and Brad would fly over in the corporate King Air. He was a member of the El Dorado Country Club. He loved to paint. He loved boats. He moved up here and fell in love with his club. He also came with some. He came with a daughter. He was a widower, and his wife had recently passed away. And Bill knew that Mom and George would be a great couple. Well, he also brought with him a daughter that my mother never had, Colleen Zeman Daly. And together the family moved up to San Francisco. George took a job with Levi Strauss. And they moved in, they went house shopping one day, and they walked into 47 West Shore Road. And Mom said, this is it, this is our house. And George said, I've already turned it down. I don't like it. It's like a barn in here. It's too big. So Mom said, I don't know where you're sleeping tonight. But we're buying this house. Anyway, George didn't know it at the time, but he became a member of this yacht club. He gave up his California Yacht Club days, by the way. He absolutely loved this club. He loved the people here. He became a board member at Dominican College, and there's all these connections that George's presence is still felt in my house, it's still felt here. In any event, the family moved here, and Brad and Colleen attended Redwood, and my older brother Paul and I moved to San Diego. Mom had to ride Brad pretty close because she always wanted to keep an eye on him, make sure he was toeing the line. That's where she started with the school district volunteering. Dr. Cadena. Anyway, once again, and that comes from the Takimura clan taught Mom how to do that. We had Becky from Africa. We had all kinds of people. We've had IOD sailors. We've had the New Zealand Etchells 22 race team. It's just been a cavalcade of characters throughout that house. Party, 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 party. And Mom would do a party to plan the party to plan the fundraiser. For you wealth management people out there, I think that's called derivative partying with leverage. In any event, it never ended. It was Mom who put this is going to be tough to do, who put the pressure on Paige Peterson to produce the portraits for Blackie. It didn't matter. I mean, she had so many different things. If you came up with a good idea, the crazier the better. Mom would grab it and run with it. And once she ran with it, it was going to get done. She was like you couldn't stop her. I mean, once it got in her head, she would just keep going. Anyway, the glory years, I moved back from the Navy in 1989, met girl of my dreams, had 2 girls, and from my lofty perch in Tiburon Hill, I got to watch Mom for 27 years do what she did, and it was amazing. In any event, that brings us up to the present. If you would like to see the list of all the things that Mom was involved in, the ARC did a wonderful article. In closing, I'd just like to say that all the things that made my mother who she is, handwritten notes, all the fundraisers, all the things she was involved in, I think all of you know, and all of you here are involved in those things as well. And I think maybe amongst us all together, we could probably come close to her output. And when we do that, just know that Mom will be looking down, smiling, and then that way her legacy will live on. She will not be forgotten, and she will certainly be missed. But thank you for your time. My brother Paul's going to sing a little too.
I'm Jay Hooker. I'm with the 8 Bells Committee, and I will give you a little more of a description of that in a minute. First of all, I wanted to just express my condolences to the family and friends that spoke today. She was a marvelous woman. What a testimony to how marvelous she was. And speaking of that, there was a wonderful obituary in the ARC a couple of days ago, and I think that Christina referred to that. And the author or the writer of that was Deirdre McCrohan, and I don't think I've met her. But 2 things struck me on the obituary that she wrote. One, she quoted Robin at one time when she was doing volunteer work. And the quote was, and this was Robin, "I was told to take it on and run with it, and so I did." And boy, does that epitomize her. The second quote that I thought was, and I'm going to give you the Reader's Digest version of it, I think, because it's a lengthy history and it's more complicated than I'm saying. But the crux of it is kind of the following. 1500s, they would do 4-hour watches. And it progressed into the 1800s, 1900s. The merchant marine had a tradition of 4 hours on, 8 hours off. And during the 4 hours on, they would ring a bell every 30 minutes. And so the end of the watch would be 8 bells. And the example here would be supposing Robin and her crew have to go on watch at midnight. So at 12:30 they'd ring a bell. At 1 o'clock they'd ring 2 bells. At 1:30 they'd ring 3 bells, and so on. And at 4 o'clock in the morning they'd ring 8 bells, and Robin and her crew would be relieved of their watch. So, 8 bells for Robin. I hope this thing works. Eight bells. The watch is over for our close friend, Robin Daly. She is now relieved of the watch.
All right, that's it. It's party time. Bob wants all you to enjoy the free parking, the wine. They'll be bringing out a cheese table here soon, so enjoy yourself, and let's hear some of those good Baba stories.